This is the tutorial on creating a checkmark field in AutoData Systems ExpertScan. After completing this tutorial, you should know how to create a checkmark field as well as understand all of the options you have when creating checkmark fields. First, let's go over the use of checkmark fields. You're mainly going to use checkmark fields when you have a list of choices for your participant to choose from, or if you want your participants to rate something like their satisfaction levels. Check marks are generally going to be the most prevalent scannable object on your form. Check marks are quickly and easily quantified in the automatic reports and therefore are the best way for you to get the results that you're looking for. Alright, so let's go through how to create a checkmark field. First thing we need to do is go up to the toolbar and click on the checkmark field icon. After doing so, the checkmark element properties box will appear on your screen. The first thing you are going to want to do is to type out the question for your participant in the white space provided. For this example, I am going to ask the question, how would you rate the course overall? The next thing we are going to want to do is to change the database field name. This is not necessary to do, but it will make your life easier if you're going to be working with the Access database that ExpertScan creates when you scan in your completed forms. If you are not going to be working in the database, you can just leave the default value. But one quick reminder that if you do change this value, no two objects in your form can have the same database field name. I'm going to change the name of this object to overall rating. This way, I know that the scan data in the database under this field name is for this question. The report label is an optional change. It just places a customized label on the reports associated with this question. I'm just going to give it the same name as the database field name for now. Alright, so the next step is to define your response set. ExpertScan comes with a large array of response choices like satisfaction scales, male-female sets, yes-no sets, and even a couple of priority level sets. But you are not tied to just the defaults. There is an option for you to create your own, and we will go over that in just a little bit. For this question, I think that a satisfaction scale should collect the data that we need for this particular form. When you are creating a checkmark field, there are a few things you can change to affect the way you want the object to appear on your form. First, we have the response position. This adjusts where the checkmark will be located in relation to the question. If you're going to have a series of questions with the same response set, I would recommend putting the responses to the right of the question. This way, the key for each response option only has to be shown once at the top of all of the questions. Then the participant can read the question on the left side and fill out the answer on the right and quickly traverse through the questions. When your responses are positioned to the right, you can adjust how you want the labels for your responses, also known as the response definitions, to be explained and displayed on your form. Most of the time, if you have a set of questions that all have the same theme, therefore they're using the exact same response set, you're going to want the first question in that set to have the Show Response Definition bar option selected, and the rest of the questions will all have the Hide Both selected. So since this is my first question in the set of a couple, I selected to have the response definition bar shown. The rest of the options give you choices on how you want your checkmark to look and if you want letters and or numbers next to your question. Once you have picked out your options, a click of the OK button will create the checkmark field and place it on your form. Here you can see the question and the definition bar that we just created. Just really quick, I'm going to create another question that uses the same response set that we just used so that we can see how some of the settings would differ. I also want to point out that it is possible to change the question font or its weight, size, color, or even its alignment on the page. I'm going to make this next question ask the participant to rate the instructor of the course rather than the course overall. Next, I change the field name and the report label to Instruct Rating. And I don't need to change the response set since it is the same as the last question we created. You'll notice that ExpertScan changed the response definition setting to hide both and left all of the other settings the same. So once I click OK, the next question is placed on the form and it shares the key columns with the first question. So now let's create a checkmark field that has a custom response set. First, we open the properties box for the checkmark object. The question is going to ask if a student, also known as the participant, is taking any other classes this term. And for this question, they may have more than one answer because they may be in more than one class than the one we're evaluating them on. So I will instruct them to choose all that apply. Next step is to quickly change the database field name and the report label if needed. Alright, so I know that there isn't any response set that lists classes and allows for multiple marks. This means we are going to need to create one. So I click on the Add New button and the Custom Response Editor box opens. There are two different places to create your responses in this window. The top is for scaled responses and the bottom is for non-scaled. Scaled only allows for one answer per question, and the value written to the database is going to be numeric. The non-scaled can be set to allow for multiple marks per question, and the value written to the database is going to be the same value as the key. Now with a little bit of camera magic, I have filled in all of the different classes that the respondent might pick from. All you have to do to create your responses and your keys is click on the row and type what you would like your response to be and what you would like your key to be. Once you have all of your responses typed, make sure that you name the response set. When you click OK, you will be asked if you would like to save this response set that you just created. If you think you might use the response set again, click Yes. If you think that you will never use this response set again on this form or on any other form, click No. So now that the response set is created, I can go through and change some of the other options for formatting, like placing the responses below the question and changing the checkmark type. I am also going to make sure that I choose the option to allow for multiple marks. And then clicking OK places the object on our form. So there we have it. We just created 3 checkmark fields and utilized many of the options available. This completes the tutorial on creating checkmark fields in ExpertScan.